Alrighty friends, I'm back on the Jeep. Oh man, this thing has been quite the project. Hopefully you can go back and watch the series of videos where I put a 4.3 liter V6 in it. But as you can tell now, there is no 4.3 liter V6 in the Jeep. And that's kind of a long story. I'll walk through it as quick as I can. Put it together, ran, drove, used it during hunting season, worked great. Made some noise I didn't like, a ticking noise, a tapping noise, something in the engine. Also was it ran rough. I had the wrong flywheel on the engine, long story short. How I ended up getting there is the mystery bell housing that I had for the build that I picked up off Facebook Marketplace was too small to accept the large small block Chevy or 4.3 liter V6 flywheel. So I had to get a small flywheel. So I got a neutral balanced one, which wasn't exactly right for that engine. So long story short, I should have just called Novak, let them know what I needed and got the adapter right away. That's what I ended up doing now. Saved up a little money, bought the adapter, got a flywheel that goes back on the old 4.3 V6 and the original style flywheel for that. It's going to go on, it's a great big heavy son of a gun, which will be great. It's going to go on a stock style GM bell housing with the big, for the big flywheel will go on with Novak's adapter. That's a long story. In the process of this, I figured out that either my transmission or my transfer case, one of them was making pretty good noise. While I have it apart and I'm tearing down to put in that adapter, I might as well go through my transmission. So I got a rebuild kit for the old T90 as well. I got that from Kaiser Willys, and so I'm going to do that. Never done that before, so this will be fun. And then hopefully get this thing all back together and put back in the Jeep, and then we can put a bow on it and be done doing how I messed up videos on the Jeep. First thing I got to do, tear this thing apart. It is a mess. I've got to tear it down, clean it up, and get just down to the transmission, put her on the workbench so that I can start tearing into it and replacing the parts inside. Here we go. We got it all apart. You can see there's not much to this transmission, and thank goodness for YouTube, because as I was pulling the transfer case off, stuff started falling apart in there. So looking forward to watching the video to put it all back together. I'm going to take a tool cleaning time out and clean up this mess. It's just that nasty gear oil all over them. I got all these parts that need cleaned as well. I'm going to try to sell this bell housing because it's valuable to somebody. And you can see that the rear main seal in my engine was leaking. Oiled that up pretty good, so I'll go clean that up in the process of getting my tools and everything done as well. All right, it's time to do a little bit of cleaning on that bell housing. So I'm just going to come out here to the parts cleaning area, the front porch. Use this stuff, some super clean. Throw it on stream mode, and I'm just going to start soaking it in this stuff. You'll be surprised at how well this will clean it up. I'm just going to shoot it all over this. Get it all up in there. Let's get it all over here. Oh, that's not bad. This is the worst part, so we'll focus on that. All right, I'm just gonna hit that, let it soak for a little bit while I go in there and eat a little lunch. and see how the super clean does. Alrighty. Well, a little bit of super clean on it. I hit the bell housing. Looks pretty good. Cleaned it up real nice on the inside. I did the same thing with the case, the transmission. Cleaned it up, super cleaned it, got all the bearings and everything out finally. So that's ready to go. This thing's ready to go on Facebook Marketplace. And now I've got to go in here back to the workbench, and I'm going to start the tedious task of just cleaning all these parts up. Sounds like a good time. Oh my goodness. Sometimes I wonder why I think I can do all this stuff. Okay, I kind of stopped filming there once I got things broken apart, and I sat here and just followed the directions and pulled this thing apart. This is what it looks like. Oh man. Thankfully, Novak's instructions on how to do this are pretty good. They just use some language that, like, I don't know, when they talk about the second gear stopping block and whatever. I don't know what that is. I'm just taking things apart. One thing I do know, I'm pretty sure, is that this is probably not the original main input shaft, and which it kind of changed the way things disassembled. Like the bearing wasn't on it, pressed onto it. The bearing stayed in there. I don't know, hopefully that matters when I go to put things together. I think this is not the original one because I think this one's longer, extended, because that bell housing actually had a thicker portion on it. And anyway, that's how they make it happen. My new kit should have all the stuff I need in there, so I'm gonna let that happen when I go to putting things back together. I've got a bunch of cleaning to do, and then I'm gonna have to I hope these instructions are good for the reassembly. I know there's a good YouTube video out there that I've been watching, so we'll watch that. Okay, I'll bring you back up and have some clean parts. Okay, well, I know this looks very similar to what we had before, except hopefully the parts are cleaner. I just put them in my little tub, cleaned them, a little super clean, cold water, wiped them down, dried them, and then hit them with some WD-40. I inspected everything. The only one that gets me worried is the front here of this on the, what do you call this, the main cluster gear here. These teeth, I'm sure this is why it's making noise. Looks like they'd been worked over before, but there was a little ridge on the back of them, so I just cleaned off the ridge. Make sure there's no burrs on them anywhere. That's good. So now I'm going through this kit from Novak Conversions, the T90 rebuild kit, and just kind of seeing what I have. And I can tell you, this thing looks nice. It's good, and I'll be able to get an idea of what all the parts are I'm going to be replacing. And man, they pack them up really nice. Look at that. Isn't that sweet? Okay. So I'm going to go through, figure out what I have here. Oh, this must be second gear. They say they put a new second gear in here because this is the one that starts having issues. Okay. So I'm going to go through and go get all the parts out that I know I need, put them in here. I'm going to try to do the homework and determine what I need different for my conversion, because I have a, oh, it's going to look like this. The adapter kit and everything. So I'm going to go through that, make sure I have all the right parts, set all my new parts in here so I don't get things mixed up. Any redundant parts I'll probably put off to the side, and then it'll be time to assemble. All right, guys, this kit from Kaiser Willys is really good. It has bearings, lots of parts that I cleaned thinking I was gonna have to reuse, but it has everything, to include all these roller bearings and stuff that I've cleaned up and thought I was gonna have to jam back in there and hope they were good. They come with new ones, so that's awesome. I've got all the parts ready. My case is over there cleaned up. Yeah, I got a lot of junk going on in here. The case is cleaned up there. I'm gonna start assembling. And listen, hey, I'm not gonna even pretend like I'm the expert on this. I'm gonna take my phone, in which I normally video with. I'm gonna put it over here on the tripod, and I'm gonna make it a video. And I'm gonna watch a YouTube video. I'll put a link of it up there in the corner from Kaiser Willys. It's not them that did it, but it's on their website that shows exactly how to reassemble this T90. So I'm gonna get that going. Oh, before we do, let me show you real quick how that bell housing turned out. Okay, I threw it over here by my spare Volkswagen engine. That's a foreshadowing of stuff to come. But there we go. That's the bell housing, how she looked. Cleaned up really nice. I'm ready to put that guy on the old marketplace once I get the rest of the transmission pieces that go along with that conversion kit. My case is all cleaned up, ready to reassemble. All right. Well, guys, wish me luck. I will bring you back when I have an assembled T90 ready to go. All right, guys. I think we have some success. Check it out. All right, what started out as a table full of parts, has become a transmission. Everything is in, it spins freely. I'm pretty sure this is all set. My transfer case will mount over that and bolt in and all that. Now I'm to the magic part, to where I've got to get my adapter and everything out of the box and get that figured out and put that on. And anyway, I tell you what I'm gonna do tonight, since I've been at this all day, is cover it up, call it a night. Hey guys, man, we're back out here. It's been a few days since I quit working on the old transmission, but I finally got it together. I am slowly losing the fight on keeping my garage organized. And the thing I've got to do is get this Jeep together and get it out of the garage. It has got to get out of here so that we can continue on with the next phases of projects and everything else we got going on. But the good news is it only took me 2 tries and I have this transmission all together and functioning. Let's check it out. It's pretty neat. All right, so I have a whole pile of just leftover Jeep transmission parts to figure out. Did you know that there are 102 needle bearings in the old T90 transmission? And they all need to be placed in a certain place and anything. Anyway, this was pretty helpful through the process. The lubricant, this is sort of like a thick, almost like a, I don't know, like a Vaseline or something like that. But it's just for this job, for assembly, where once the transmission gets up to operating temperature, it'll kind of dissolve into the oil. You can see little globs of it sometimes because it's kind of cool out here. It was cool out here. Anyway, but it's quite the process. I put a link up of the video, how I went through and did all this stuff. I'm not the professional on it, but that's how I got it all done. In the process, in the kit, I replaced this. This is the second gear cluster. It starts to wear out on the inside and give a little bit of movement, and these Jeeps are notorious for jumping out of second gear. So they include one in their rebuild kit. That's from Kaiser Willys. And then likewise bearings, some new blocking gears, a bunch of new shims and everything. So all this stuff is just leftover parts. The first time I put it all together, I got it here in 3rd gear, just so I can show you what my problem was. These little guys right here, these little pawls, one of them wasn't machined down enough and wouldn't pop all the way down in, so that the gears wouldn't go where they needed to, and it was all messed up, wouldn't rotate right. So I had to take it apart, figure that out, go back together. That took me a day, but man, it is good, and it just is smooth and nice. It shifts well. My first reverse gear move, it's nice, and I cleaned up my gears. I'm excited. So now I've got to put this thing the rest of the way together. I'm going to hang my PTO winch off the back of it and get that all lined up and everything. And then we're going to move on to the magic. And that is the adapter that came from Novak Adapters. So let me get that together, get this a little bit cleaned up and over here. And then we will show you how the adapter goes on. Hopefully get a bell housing and a bunch of stuff together, and put this stuff all together, maybe even on the motor today. Okay, the first thing I've got to do before I even install my PTO onto my transfer case is clean this thing off. This is several decades of grime and junk, and it's just a mess. I could just put it on there, look at this, but I don't want to. So we're going to use just some good old super clean. Spray it all down real well. My plan is to hit it with super clean, spray it down, scrape it, scrub it, and then just hit it with some plain old H2O. Cold water, clean it off, rinse it off, and it should clean up real nice. A couple of tools I use in this process, just a regular brush, and then like a wire brush for the extra stubborn stuff, and then a scraper. I do have a couple of these. Wheel cleaner, probably not the right product for this, but if I run out of my regular super clean, then I'll use that. I also have a little bit of my aerosol, but I like to use this on inside stuff, so I'm probably not going to use that up today. So let's get busy. Let's make this thing clean up. All right, there it is. Came out pretty good. I didn't stress too hard over all the little bits of grease, but that's it. And there it is. Koenig J. Ron Works Incorporated, Houston, Texas. Anyway, this is good, man. Really good PTO winch. Works great. Let's get this thing bolted up to the transfer case so we can get moving on with this project. All right, so I'm getting ready to put my power takeoff unit onto my transfer case here, and I realized I don't have a gasket for this. I had two different sets. Neither of them had this gasket. So I dug around in the old garage a little bit. I found some gasket material, and what I'm gonna do here is attempt to make a gasket for this. Let's see how successful I can be at this. We'll start with that. I'm going to get my little hammer here, and I'm going to try to transfer the outline onto my gasket material. So far, it's working pretty good. All right, how's it look? I think that's enough to go ahead and knock a gasket out of there with. Now let's get the old scissors, finish trimming it out. Okay, I have this part done. Now I got to figure out where my holes go. So I'm going to try to find where it lines up. It's too close together. Well, let's see. It's got to line up on one of these. There we go. Okay, now try to transfer the holes. Okay, I got my gasket set on there, glued into place. I went ahead and put silicone, some good RTV, not just silicone. I like to use the Permatex Ultra Gray. It's set in there pretty good, even where it was torn. Now I have to go through the tedious task of setting this up here and then put my bolts through to get them to clamp down on that. Here goes nothing. All right, we got each of the bolts in there. I actually searched all over and I don't have the 5/16 Allen on a socket, so I can't really use my torque wrench to torque them down. So instead I just got my crescent wrench on the end of it there, and I'm going around pulling them all down even in a crisscross pattern like you would a wheel or something. And just making sure they're all nice and snug evenly. I'm glad I didn't drop any washers inside the case in the process. Did I already get that one? I don't know. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put the caps on those, each of these caps like this, but I'm going to go ahead and use some aviation former gasket, some sealant liquid on those because they seal. Put those in and that'll be mounted. It'll be time to move over to the bell housing. Okay, this adapter, this is now where all the magic happens. Putting this awesome billet aluminum block onto our transmission. Now I just got off phone with Novak to verify it has an O-ring seal on it, so there's no other sealant, no gaskets required or anything. This just goes on over the shaft and then gets held in place, where these holes get filled in, where our old retainer would have gone. It has 3 bolts that go through there. And these 3 bolts go into the transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and use some aviation thread sealer on those 3 and get it in place and then tighten it down with those. After that, I'll be using these other bolts supplied with the kit to go through the transmission ears into here and torque those down to about 40 foot-pounds. On those, I'm also going to use some thread locker. It is aluminum, so I'm going to use the medium strength, the 242, and bring those down, like I said, to about 40 foot-pounds. So, without any further ado, let's get with it. There we go. And this piece will serve as our bearing retainer on the transmission. Put a little bit of this thread sealer on each of these bolts. Now their kit recommends bringing each of these down to about 10 foot-pounds. Okay, the last thing I need to do before I go bolting my bell housing onto the transmission is get my pivot ball squared away. This is the one that was in the transmission. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be hard to get out of there, but it just backed right out. Now, of course, right where our clutch fork rides. Well, the setup I have in this, the clutch fork I have requires this sort of clutch ball, or yeah, clutch fork ball. So that'll roll right in there. Before I do it, I'll put a little blue Loctite on there because it's aluminum, and this is steel. We'll get that screwed in there, flush it up, and then we'll use the supplied bolts with the kit and go ahead and mount it up to the transmission. So there's one more thing here that the instructions go through, and that's setting your bell housing up on your engine without the transmission hooked up and checking, making sure it's centered for smoothness of shifting and longevity and all that stuff. You guys can assume that that's already done. This thing with our centering ring is in, retainer's in, everything, and it still spins nice. I'm happy. I like it. Now it's time to tape this up here. Say goodbye to this for a little bit. It's time to now dig out the flywheel, put the engine on the hoist, get the flywheel on it, torque it down, and look at putting a clutch on and try to mate these 2 things together. All right, if you guys remember when we put this engine together and did this whole swap, I'll put a link back to the whole series. When I first put it together, the flywheel that I had would not fit the original, the bell housing I had would not fit the original flywheel that came on that Chevy 4.3 V6. So I thought I outsmarted it and went and tracked down a flywheel for a 1-piece rear main seal V6 setup, actually for a V8 setup, neutral balanced, like off a 305. That was a smaller, the 153 tooth flywheel. Fit on there, worked, but the engine was a shaker. It kind of vibrated. I didn't like it. It made a ticking noise I didn't like. I didn't know if that was related to the vibration or not, but it wasn't right. So let me show you what came in the package with the new flywheel. So I went and found the correct flywheel for it. I couldn't just put the flywheel that came off of it because I traded, it's a long story, but I traded it away to my brother who put it in a hot rod pickup of his. It was gone. So I had to buy a new flywheel. And it's funny because I found this note in it. Replaces only flywheels with casting number 1410323. That's what I have. If there's any other casting, don't use it. The incorrect flywheel will cause engine vibration. That's the truth. So that was the whole deal I had going on with that other flywheel. Vibrations because it wasn't the right one. It wasn't balanced for that engine. This flywheel is brand new one, right casting number, would have come OE on that engine. I'm gonna rip it out of here, hang it on there, use some Loctite, torque it down correctly, got my bolts and everything. Let's get that flywheel hung. I also had to go spring, because it is a bigger flywheel than came out of it, had to go spring for a new clutch setup. So I'm gonna spend a few minutes, get that bolted on, get that set up, and then hopefully be able to swing around and attach it to that bell housing here before the end of the night. Okay, well, this feels good because I was a culprit all along on this thing, at least one of them, and I have the new flywheel on. Did I put new bolts in the flywheel? No. It would have been the right thing to do, but I didn't. The old ones are going to work just fine, but I did torque them down 60 foot-pounds with red Loctite. So they're on there really nice. Now, I've just got to go through the old clutch procedure. Dig out the clutch pressure plate out of the new box. 150 bucks for that stinking thing down at O'Reilly. But the clutch is just for a 1992 Chevy S10 pickup with a 4.3. It'll fit on here just fine, and it'll fit inside our Chevy truck bell housing. I'm gonna get that on there, get it aligned, and man, we are getting close to stabbing these two things together. All right, it's a new day. I've got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna take advantage of that and try to get these things together. I've got my transmission set up. I need to get my clutch fork, my throwout bearings set up in here. The engine is ready. I'll take you off over here. The engine is all set up. I finished off last night torquing everything down, torqued the clutch down, made sure it's in good. My clutch is centered. It is ready to go. I want to show you a couple things though that are different the way this is going to go this time. One is this throwout bearing. This is a throwout bearing that came out of the Jeep where I was running before, and I think this thing was on its last legs there. Perhaps. It's fairly hammered. A lot of slack in it. Obviously it let the grease out at some point. So I think this thing was on its way out. I've got a new throwout bearing ready to go. I've got to just pack some grease inside here, grease up where it slides on the shaft there. My pivot, pivot ball, and I'll put a little bit of oil on the input shaft there where the clutch is going to slide over, and a little bit there where it's going to slide into the pilot bushing as well. So I'm going to get that stuff all set up and ready, and then hopefully plug these things two things together and be able to set them off to the side while I prep the engine bay, do a couple more things just before we slide it in the Jeep. All right, well, this looks like success to me. Oh man, I just can't wait to get this thing in, get my Jeep out, clean this whole garage out. It looks like it all went together. I'm gonna rotate the engine and make sure that I don't hear anything rubbing or anything in there, but it looks like, I mean, it fits, it's tight, but it fits in there. I got about 1/4 of an inch air gap in there. I don't know if you can see in there. For my throwout bearing, I'm happy with that. It all lines up. My questions, I just want to make sure it's going to fit in the Jeep now, because I know it's a little different dimensions than that other one, so hopefully my floorboard's clear and everything. I'm excited to find that out. I'm probably going to peel back my cover a little bit here on the transmission itself, rotate the engine over, make sure that it's turning here in the transmission fine, and make sure I don't hear that flywheel or clutch or anything hitting in that bell housing. I'm going to go ahead and tie up all my loose ends. Check that, tie up all my loose ends, get my bolts in. I've got a couple little brackets, a little bracket I had to build for down here to tie a spring to for my clutch fork, that kind of stuff. But I'm going to get it all together here, and then this thing's going to get set down off to the side and pushed out of the way a little bit, because I've got to tackle resealing my steering box on that Jeep before I put it all in there. That's going to be pretty tedious, boring work, but once I get that done, this guy's ready to swing in. And man, I'm excited because most of the fabrication's been done from the first time we had this in and running. Now it's just a matter of putting it in with the correct bell housing, flywheel, and hoping that engine doesn't tick. All right, well, hopefully next time you see this, we're swinging an engine in here and getting ready to run it. All right, well, we got the motor out before we put it in. One of the things I'm gonna have to do is rebuild this steering box, because you can see how nasty it is. So I'm not going to get into all the details on how to do it, but I will just show you how easy I'll clean it up with soaking it in some super clean and brushing it off. We'll see how good it comes out. All right, that's still kind of a mess in there. My garage is still a giant mess, but check out this steering box. Look how clean it is. That's just the sprayed it with super clean. I actually broke out the pressure washer on that guy because it was pretty stubborn. But I just sprayed it, let it soak while I set up the pressure washer, hit it, sprayed it off, did a little scraping with a screwdriver on some of the thicker stuff, which I didn't get at all, but it is certainly good enough now to work on. Well guys, it's been a couple days since the time lapse of throwing the engine in. I've just kind of been piddling in my time off, trying to tie everything together, and check it out. We got a Jeep with an engine in it. I have assembled everything, and I'm just down to the air cleaner situation being the last thing to put on the Jeep, but otherwise everything went together. It kind of didn't go together the same as it came apart for some reason. My wiring's wacky, but I don't know. I think some things are better. Just as a reminder of the things I did, when we took it all apart, I tore the engine down, I checked it all over, everything looked good. I put everything back together, lapped the valves on the heads, made sure all that looked good, and put them back together. I had a wobbly harmonic balancer and pulley on the bottom. So I replaced that with something different and got it where I think it should be straight now. The big thing that we made some money, well, spent a lot of money on, is redoing this adapter. Remember, we had to put a new flywheel on the engine. We put the appropriate flywheel for that 4.3 back on it. We had to put a GM bell housing and then the Novak conversions adapter on the transmission. While we were there, we rebuilt the T90, top and bottom. So it is good to go. New clutch in it as well. Because it's a different size bell housing, different size flywheel. I've got it all back together. I went around and scrounged up all my miscellaneous antifreeze jugs and dumped them in the radiator till it's full. I think I'm ready to try firing this guy off once I've got my timing light and see if we can get the timing set and see if she runs any better. I've got the timing light set up. We went ahead and brought the engine up on top dead center, just bumped the starter till it was on top dead center number 1. Got the distributor lined up, wires all set, firing order all squared away. I think it's ready to fire off. This thing should fire off, like to, get it to where it'll keep running on its own. And then I'll set my timing and get that dialed in. I'll probably set it to, I don't know, about 10 degrees initial or so. And we'll go with that. Yeah, well, here goes nothing. Let's see if this thing will run. Well, almost. Let's see here. Let's take a little timing out of it. There we go. I think my distributor was moving on me. All right, well, she runs. She makes good oil pressure. It doesn't seem like we have that ticking noise that we had before, which is good. I got in and I engaged the clutch. My transfer case is still in neutral, and I don't have my shifters on there yet, so I couldn't move the vehicle, but I engaged the clutch and I could hear it gauge and disengage when I went through gears. But it's missing. It's missing. Which cylinder is it missing on?
That one, one I think, and I think one of these.
Okay. It seems like it's missing just because it's hesitating. So we're gonna check our rotor cap, rotor, spark plugs, and wires, and make sure they're all in there. But man, that's a pretty good win right now, having this thing fire up and run. It sure feels good. All right, we're gonna troubleshoot a little bit, try to get my transfer case, shifter, and all that stuff together, because I'm excited to drive this thing. We're gonna let it come up on temp and finish dumping the antifreeze in. Once it comes up on temp, fills up the block, then we'll shut her down. All right, we've got this Jeep project going. It is so close to being finished that I can taste it. I just want to get it running, back it out of the garage, and muck this whole thing out. This thing is taking over in here, and I am tired of it. The last thing I got to do here is put my shift linkage, well, last of the parts I need to install here are this shift linkage for my transfer case. I went ahead and ordered a new pin for the two shifters to ride on because they were floppy. So I put my new pin in there and they continue to be floppy, which tells me that these things are just, they're probably worn out, and you know, it doesn't really affect it functionally too bad. It just bothers me. So before I go to put them in, I went ahead and jumped on Amazon and ordered up some sheets of brass for shim material. And I have different thicknesses from real thin stuff here to some thicker. So I'm just gonna play around a little bit, find the thickness that I think is right, and build myself a shim that goes on there. So I can slide this pin in. It'll be nice and snug. It'll be brass, so it'll be, you know, I don't have to worry about it wearing those parts out. It'll wear on the brass if anything. And then I put a new Zerk fitting in there, so we can put a little bit of grease in there to keep it going. And we'll install this, and then we can throw our floorboards in and we can drive this sucker. Got to put my floorboards in because my throttle pedal's attached to it. So that'll be the next process. So we get a shim in here. I'll show you. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. Seems right to me. And then we'll get this stuff installed and we'll get this Jeep on the road. All right, well, I really hope this is the last installment of Jeep engine swap videos. It is in, it's complete. A couple of things that happened. It was missing. I double checked my timing and I had 2 wires crossed on my distributor. It's usually something very simple, but so it runs great now. I went to test out the clutch and I had 2 reverses. That was embarrassing, but thankfully I just didn't have my shift fork in the first reverse gear in the transmission. I overlooked that. I guess I just dropped it on without making sure it was in there. My bad. But now it works. Gears seem to work in every forward and back. I've got my seat, well, my passenger seat's out still. My floorboards are kind of patched in there enough that I can get to my gas pedal. My brake pedal works. I think about the only thing we need to do before we finish this video is just go drive this thing around. All right, let's see how this thing does. Can you hear that engine rattling? I can. It still makes that noise. Just gonna have to embrace the old Larry Enticer, huh? I'm just gonna send it, whatever. It's got the rattle. I've gone through that entire engine. I don't know why it makes valve train noise. Who cares? Who cares? Let's go out and drive this thing. I need to drive this. I'm tired of working on it. All right, well, like with all of my first drives, I vote we take this thing up the hill first. Sure makes it a lot easier to coast it home I start going up the mountain. Clutch seems to work fine. Oh yeah. Second gear. Ah yeah, she's a beaut. Transmission still makes noise, not as much as it used to, but a little bit. Still rattles. It makes a little more noise because I don't have my floorboards all the way in yet. We'll fix that tomorrow. That's a problem for future Joe. I really wanted to drive it today though. Steering sure feels nice after going through my steering box. Really, it didn't feel bad. I just don't want it to leak the oil and grease out of that steering box onto the ground everywhere anymore. Well, it seems to be doing all right. All right, well, this thing does great. It did good on the drive. The transmission is so tight. It's nice, like not in a bad way. It's tight. Shifts just nice and clean. It doesn't want to jump out of second gear. And even though it makes a little noise, it's way quieter than it was before. So I am super happy with the rebuild kit that I got from Kaiser Willys. Stoked about the videos that I watched on there on YouTube about how to do the whole thing, how to rebuild the whole thing. It was really good. I'm happy with that. I'm really pleased that the transmission worked out. The engine, when it sits there and idles under no load, it still makes some valve train noise or some kind of noise. I don't know what it is. And honestly, I quit caring. I'm just going to drive it. Driving down the road doesn't make the noise. It's good. So I'm going to finish putting my floorboards in tomorrow. I'm going to take my family out to dinner tonight. I'm going to bolt that stuff in, and this thing's going to get driven, man. That's it. Sure appreciate you guys following along. A lot of people took the time to comment on the last few videos, which I just really appreciate. It's super helpful. I have a lot to learn about this, so I appreciate you guys that have done this before. I also did learn a lot through this process, so please feel free to ask questions. Send me an email, badhombregarage@gmail.com. I'll get back to you. I would love to see more people do this swap and to see nobody go through the pain I did on it. That's it. Hey, make sure you hit subscribe. Hit the little bell for notifications so that we know, you know when a new video comes out. Hopefully we'll be seeing more adventures in the old Jeep. Now it's time to move on to some hot rods.